Are you ready for phenomenal thought leadership from the most well-respected leaders in industry? Join us for stellar conversations and sound advice from trailblazers who have a passion for excellence. Learn best practices that will catapult the culture of your company into a new level of greatness. Welcome to Great Companies, Great Leaders. Your host is Christine Gannon. Welcome to Great Companies, Great Leaders. Super honored and thrilled today to have Sharon Lechter with us. I think most everyone watching knows who you are, Sharon, but welcome. So glad to have you.
Thank you, Christine. I'm delighted to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about your background. I want to share with people some of your bio. It does not do you justice. It's a short bio, and I know we're going to let people know how to find you and a lot more information, but I do want to share a little bit about your bio and then talk to you about your journey with leadership. So Sharon Lechter, as most of you know, is an internationally recognized financial literacy expert. She's a phenomenal keynote speaker and a business mentor. She's a New York Times bestselling author, successful entrepreneur, philanthropist, and has enjoyed a 35-year career as a licensed CPA. She's advised 2 U.S. presidents on the topic of financial literacy, and Sharon co-authored the international bestseller that most of you know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and 14 other books in the Rich Dad series. In 2008, when the economy crashed, she was asked by the Napoleon Hill Foundation to help re-energize the teachings of Napoleon Hill, and her best-selling books with the foundation include 3 Feet from Gold, which is amazing, Outwitting the Devil, which I finished about a year ago and rereading it, and Think and Grow Rich for Women, along with Success and Something Greater. She's featured in the movie Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy, and on the national television series World's Greatest Motivators. Sharon's currently launching her newest title, Exit Rich, which I see behind you, to support entrepreneurs in building value and scalability in their businesses so they can be in the position of greatest potential. So Sharon, we've crossed paths a few different times. You've been a tremendous mentor to me. Thank you. You've published a multitude of best-selling, award-winning books and hosted value-filled webinars, conferences, and you've just contributed to the evolution of leaders in profound ways around the world. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Well, thank you, Christine. That's a very lovely introduction. I appreciate that.
So would love for you to talk a little bit about being a leader, your journey as a leader and how that's brought you to today and what you think is most important about leadership in the environment we find ourselves in.
Well, thanks, Christine. I think that's a really important topic because leadership is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And part of it, I think you need to start with what your own personal brand is, your own personal mission and the mission of your company. You know, successful companies solve a problem or serve a need. But a lot of times business leaders and businesses start out really, you're either wanting to be a celebrity brand or a mission brand. And you have to identify which one you're going to be. So if you're a mission brand as a leader, you're going to elevate everybody around you to make sure that everybody is focused on the same thing. And that is mission, solving a problem or serving a need. In a celebrity brand, you're having everybody follow you to create your celebrity. Now, there might be a mission underneath it, but again, the focus is different. And so as a leader, you have to be very clear on what your desired outcome is. What is the mission of your company? Be very clear, then be able to communicate it to the people around you.
Right.
Then you have to be able to inspire them to stand into their own power. So many times we have leaders that become autocratic and just kind of tell you what to do. A true leader knows how to bring out your own genius and know that you have people on your team who are strong where you are weak.
Right.
But a leader also knows that sometimes they have to be a pit boss.
True.
And other times they need to be a cheerleader and knowing which one they need. That's the true leader and has the discernment to know when they need to be there. They need to be able to stand tall when there's criticism and duck when there's praise so that their team gets the praise. But, I think leadership is, one of the greatest compliments I've had during my career is people say Sharon would never ask anybody to do something that she's not willing to do or has done herself.
Right.
And, so it's an awareness of not just what your needs and desires are, but to really invest the time to understand your team, what their goals are. And because what happens is a lot of times you have a lot of turnover. And that's because the individuals are not, they're seen as assets, as humans, but not as people.
Sure.
Right. And so it's really important to engage and have that internal mentorship within your company so that people feel like you see them as a person with their own needs and their own desires, not just somebody sitting in the seat to do a job. And I think that's really important.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think one of the things that is really interesting about this environment we find ourselves in pre-COVID, leadership was challenging, and all the pieces and parts you just mentioned were critically important. But now, potentially coming out of COVID, I think leaders are going to be challenged in a new and different way. They have employees that are potentially in a hybrid environment. They have employees who may not come back to the workplace. They're trying to build teams and keep their employees engaged. What do you think will be some of the most important aspects for leaders as they navigate this new environment?
Well, the old model when people went to an office was the time clock, right? You expected people to be there 8 to 5, 9 to 6. And the world has shifted now because we can't, if they're at home, you don't know what they're actually doing. You can put all kinds of things on computers to, make sure their computer was on, but that doesn't mean they were actually working. And so I think that the shift is from time spent to mission accomplished, productivity, and being able to, and I think what you'll see is an elevation of entrepreneurship where individual employees are going to step up to the plate to accomplish what they need to. And I think that because of the hybrid environment, communication is even more critical of being in touch with your employees. And I don't even like to use the word employees or staff, your team, be in touch with your team. But it's so important for me. Every week we had a meeting where everybody would check in and say where they are, because if they had an issue at home, I wanted to know that.
Yeah.
Because they can't be present if you're thinking about something at home. So it's kind of a check-in as to what you did this week, what's going on in your life right now. And then we talk about our goals for the week. And I always had my team, I want little wins. So we always had big goals, sales goals, or, new association goals. But I wanted little goals along the way that we could celebrate, those little wins, because that elevates the team, that elevates the environment, the culture.
Right.
Because the culture in your company is determined by the leader. And you either have a culture by design or a culture by default. And it's up to you. Is there clear, definitive goals? Are there clear rules of conduct, accountability, and celebration? So that's culture by design. Culture by default is you give somebody a job description and they gossip is a killer of companies.
Yes.
And so it's so important to have a defined set of job descriptions and systems on how you run your company. Because as a leader, it's a lot easier to speak to somebody about a system that they may not be utilizing properly than talk to them about them not doing their job.
Right.
That's nothing but emotion. This is in writing. There's no emotion. This is the system. So let's go back through this, John. What's not working here? All right. And typically they'll self-select out or they'll come up with a solution.
Right.
But it takes that personal attack out of the equation. And so it's very important to document your systems and your responsibilities and your communication styles.
And as we move through COVID, wherever we land with all of this pandemic, I know there's places and spaces still locked down, some are out of lockdown. It's just such an interesting environment. I think all those systems, hopefully leaders put in place, they're so much, I think they're identifying why they needed those systems. If you don't have employees sitting in front of you or your team sitting in front of you, if communication is 80% body language, right? You're at a disadvantage. Those systems have to be in place. And if you haven't put them in place, Do you think there's some ways they can start now to start doing that as a leader? If I'm a new leader and I need to put those in place, where would you recommend they start?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the way you evolve as a leader is understanding how to make life easier for everybody. And you do that through clear systems, clear communication, and clear opportunities for people to see how they can succeed. When there's confusion, there's conflict.
So true.
And it doesn't mean that there's not going to be conflict if everything's clear, but that conflict is a little easier to identify the source. But when there's total confusion, there's your chaos, and you only get out of chaos with clarity.
Such a good point. So, what's been your greatest leadership lesson that maybe you've had to learn the hard way early on? Something that, man, you never are going back there.
Well, from early on, I can tell you what I'm quick to come to a resolution for something. And as a leader, sometimes you have to hold your tongue and wait for your team member to come up with a resolution on their own. And so as part of that, I started implementing, if you have a problem when you come in to see me, no problem, no problem is too small, too big, but just don't come into me without a solution. All right. So bring me a problem and what you think is the solution. And that allows me to listen more and not have the impatience, because I could easily just do this, this, and this. And then what you're doing is you're kind of disabling your team member. Elevate them. You may not agree with their proposed solution, but at least you've valued their input. And that's worth a lot. But I think a young leader thinks that they have to make all the decisions. And you have to make all the ultimate decisions, but sometimes it's just ratifying the proposals from the people underneath you if you've trained them appropriately.
Absolutely. And the reminder that they're a role model, right? Leaders are role models. And so you touched on this a little bit earlier in terms of your weekly meeting with your team and checking in to find out how they were doing. That self-care or understanding what's happening in their environment is so important. So for leaders, what advice would you leave with a leader in terms of self-care and what they need to do to take care of themselves?
Well, yeah, most top leaders are type A personalities. And this is something like I'll give you today. All right. We had this schedule a long time ago, but when about 2 weeks ago, I sat down with my team and looked at my calendar, and I'm on the road every single weekend for the next kind of like, oh my gosh, we're back. It's back. I'm traveling to speak, and I'm gone every single weekend through April and May. And I said, okay, get to the calendar. I need a day free every week. All right. So this is the week I'm free, but you and I had already been scheduled. So I'm here for you.
Thank you.
It's like making sure you cannot be an effective leader if you're running on empty. Right. And so it's really important and I do an exercise particularly for women's groups, where I say, explain, I want you to do 1-word descriptors of who you are, 4 or 5, right? And I would have written wife, mother, author, entrepreneur, CPA. And I said, fewer than 2 out of 100 people will actually write their own name down. And that's because as a society, we judge ourselves through the roles we play. Sure. We judge ourselves through the eyes of others. And this is a hard lesson for me. I still work on it today. I mean, my team was like shocked when I said I want to schedule myself out one day. And I'm going, really? I go, yep. And so, but I realize if I'm a better Sharon, then I'm a better wife, mother, author, entrepreneur, CPA. So we have to take care of ourselves. And yes, you can go to the old airplane model, put your face mask on before you put your kids on, but it truly is true. So many people work themselves silly. They become successful and they get sick.
Yes.
Can't even enjoy their wealth. And so it's very important to take care of yourself and have that vitality, that energy, because it gives you more energy to continue doing what you want to do. But you have to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. I'm not really sure how leaders can function. They do, right? They do. They get sick. There's a lot of negative downstream effects when self-care isn't in place. But if you also don't have time to think about your strategy and your vision and where you're headed, if you haven't blocked that time to do that, I think it's very easy to get caught up, especially when we're in this Zoom environment. I'm so happy to hear that you're back traveling at some level. It sounds like it's super busy, but when we're on Zoom calls hour after hour, if you haven't made time and built in time as a leader to really reassess where you're at, that could be detrimental.
It is, and it truly is. You have to have time to have that imagination to be able to let your subconscious work for you and assist you. And too many times we're just on the go all the time. And it's
Right.
very important to have that time to allow yourself to just let your brain heal and let your subconscious work for you.
Absolutely. Let's flip topics for a minute and talk a little bit about your new book that's coming out. Can you tell the audience a little bit about what it's about and who it's for?
Absolutely. It's right over my shoulder, Exit Rich. It's in cooperation with Inc. Magazine. My co author is Michelle Seiler Tucker. She's the top female business broker in the country. And so few businesses actually sell when somebody wants to sell it because they haven't put the foundation and the structure into the business. And so we wrote this book to help people understand how important it is to build that foundation. You can't build a house without going down first. That
Hmm.
foundation is so important. And so your business needs that foundation. Plus, you need to have the paperwork in order. You need to have the valuation. So many times we have a lot of value that we don't recognize is there because we haven't done our homework.
Right.
We take people through a process of how they can build the value in their company, strengthen it up so that they might already have a successful business, but we want to make it sustainable and scalable and saleable. And
Yes.
Steve Forbes says it's a gold mine for entrepreneurs. We have all kinds of incredible people supporting us. But at the end of the day, you can order the book now. It's out in June, but you can order it today, exitrichbook.com/buy, exitrichbook.com/buy. And I'll send you the electronic copy right away because I don't want to hold the information back. And then we'll still send you the hard copy in June. The reason I wrote this book is because we don't know what we don't know.
That's so true.
And we take you through this. You may be the best salesperson in your company. You may have the greatest product, but you don't want to do all that other stuff. So I want to, kind of say these are the things you need to make sure your team is doing. Understanding the importance of having, the people around you, your mentors, your team members, understanding, the value they bring to the table. And of course, you've got your product or your service, but then you also have your processes. And you cannot scale a business if you don't have the right business systems. And sometimes as an entrepreneur, you're moving so fast, you
Mhm.
don't take time to put in those systems.
Right.
Or you go to the next level and you don't adjust the systems at that higher level. And if you really want to have an economic engine, your engine working for you, growing and generating revenue, you need to have the strength of that business systems. And then proprietary, your intellectual property, your competitive advantage.
Right.
Intellectual property brings great value to your business. And most people don't even know what it is. So we
So
want to help
true.
you identify it. You identify your intellectual property, you protect it, and then you can leverage it. So every business we work with, we add tremendous value that's there. They just haven't recognized it so that we can elevate them in the eyes of others. And then they have, of course, your patrons, your database, huge value. So let's
Yeah.
help you get to that point where the last P is called profits, where you have much more profitable business that's structured properly, that can scale and can eventually sell. So exitrichbook.com/buy.
I'm going to put that. I'm going to put that in the YouTube comments so we make sure that our listeners can access it quickly.
Perfect.
I want to close with couple questions left. One, Exit Rich sounds amazing. I'm ordering it when we are done today. But second, you've written so many amazing books, best-selling books. Talk to us a little bit about the books, the webinars, your conferences. What could you direct leaders to? I know they can find you on your website, SharonLechter.com, and they can find all this, but talk a little bit about specifically for leaders, what would you direct them to?
Well, I think the greatest skill a leader has is understanding people, understanding what motivates them. And so most of my books also talk about mindset. So as you're reading my books, you're learning something for yourself, but you're also getting a much deeper understanding of the people around you. And particularly in today's world, the one that I just actually finished an interview with is Outwitting the Devil, which is about how fear is pervasive in our society and how fear holds us back and keeps us from achieving the success we deserve. And this one truly is important for a leader because it's not just about fear for yourself, but it makes you have a much deeper understanding of the people who are on your team. When somebody is going through something difficult, it kind of helps you figure it out and you can help them more importantly. So because the team, an individual who is frozen in fear cannot be present in 100% in their job.
Very true. Very true. So SharonLechter.com is where everyone can find you, can find more information.
And I'm Sharon Lechter in LinkedIn. I'm author Sharon Lechter on Facebook, Sharon Lechter Twitter, Sharon Lechter Clubhouse. So, and you can reach out to me, info@SharonLechter.com at any time.
Awesome. Okay, last question. Who inspires you?
Oh my gosh. I get inspired every single day with every communication I get. I had somebody send me something yesterday. They were listening to my ATMs. I do a daily ATM. It's abundance, tips, and mentorship. The daily ATM deposit kind of play on.
Yes.
Abundance, tips, and mentorship. It's like $8 a month. You can go to atm.sharonlechter.com to find out more about it. But I got something else. And she says, this is exactly what I needed to hear today. I was such down in the dumps, and this is exactly what I needed to hear today. That inspires me when I know that something I've done has really touched somebody's heart. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a real estate funding meeting with Tariq El Moussa, who's the star of Flip and Flop.
Yes.
Flipping 101. He's a friend. And his partner in this new fund he's created came up to me and said, Sharon, you don't know who I am, but 17 years ago, you came and taught my entrepreneurship class at the University of Arizona. Because of that class, I'm standing before you, a multimillionaire in real estate.
Wow.
He inspires me, all right? And it's something that, it goes back to how I was raised. My dad raised me, and every night he would say, have you added value to someone's life today? And so I get that kind of comment. I go, okay, check. Somebody was inspired. Yay. So I go, okay, Dad, check the list off for today. But, each of us, can see ourselves through the eyes of others. And most importantly is how you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror. My definition of success has nothing to do with your bank account, but how you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror. So.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to read your new book.
Thank you.
Sounds amazing. Thank you so much for being with us today. And we look forward to having you back when your book has been out and talk a little bit more about that. So thank you.
I will look forward to it. Thank you, Christine. Have a great day.
You too.
Brightworks Consulting hosts this podcast and YouTube channel to spotlight the leadership around the world that is changing lives. Brightworks offers a myriad of consulting services in the public and private sector, to include diversity, equity, and inclusion solutions for any size company. You can find us at www.brightworksconsulting.com. We're honored to have Best Companies AZ as a presenting sponsor for this podcast. Best Companies AZ is your #1 source for regional employer branding. You can find them at www.bestcompaniesaz.com.